Bang bang to the gang. Benjamin, that's good. P Warrior underscore Niner. And if you follow the 49ers and you're on YouTube, you definitely know this gentleman, Rob Schuh. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. I appreciate you having me back on the program. Always a pleasure talking with you. And I'm excited, man. You know, day one of training camp, we got practice. The pads aren't on, but hey, we've got practice. We've got film to look at. I'm hyped.
Yes, man. Myself too. I know my brother up there is ecstatic. Uh like you say, just we got real content. It's not the same stuff being said over and over again. We can actually
Right.
start looking at some stuff and start identifying what's going on. So I'm kind of excited too, and I'm definitely look forward to talking with you guys.
Yes,
Most
sir.
definitely.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, shit. Trey Lance, brother. Kyle and John had the press conference yesterday. Uh
Yes,
Kyle actually verbalized that the he is QB1. This is his team. So we can stop speculating. Not really us, but everybody else.
Right.
Uh so that was definitely encouraging to hear. Uh I guess initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it was a relief to hear. If you've been listening to Kyle Shanahan all along, I thought he had been pretty transparent about it, but the speculation continued, to your point. The national storylines keep coming in, and there are these, anonymous sources that keep storylines alive about the 49ers not being happy. I think if you believe that at all, what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch came out and said yesterday, what Kyle Shanahan said in his interview on the podcast with Tim Kawakami would erase all of that, right?
Yeah.
You have to, at this point, realize that the 49ers are invested in Trey Lance and committed to that process because they are very much still attempting to move Jimmy Garoppolo. I get the sense that they're willing to, be flexible on what offers they take at this point. And if they had any doubts, that wouldn't be the case. Jed York has proven he would be willing to carry Jimmy Garoppolo's salary while you have Trey Lance on there. And so this move clearly signals, again, what I think had been prevalent since Kyle Shanahan mentioned it at the owners' meeting. I think maybe people glossed over that because of the hangover that was so apparent on his face at that breakfast, but he seemed to pretty clearly state that this is Trey Lance's team going forward. But we were speaking about this before the program. I think it does provide the confidence that Trey Lance is going to need going in to lead this huddle, right? The men around him are going to be looking to him as the unquestioned leader from here on out. And that does make a difference. You got young guys coming into this offense that need to know he's the man. He's who they look to in these pressure moments. This allows him to be that from the outset of training camp. I think that's great. I don't expect to see Jimmy out there stealing storylines from Trey. This is his team going forward.
Thank God. P Warrior.
Yeah, well, man, always good to, be back in the fold with Rob. Thank you for coming in, man. And as always, like, subscribe, and comment on the channel. And, we were talking about it before we came on. Kyle is comfortable in his skin. And just for him to announce that, to let everybody know, the media, because the media's been speculating all off season, and with the whole Jimmy situation, he's going to be there, he's going to practice and all of this. He clearly comes out and states that, no, this is Trey's team, he's the starter, puts all of that to rest, and now we go forward with Trey, because that's ultimately what it's about now. It's not about Jimmy. We thank Jimmy for what he did. He got us to the NFC Championship game. He got us to the Super Bowl. He won games for us. Unfortunately, in the pressure moments, he couldn't come through, and he was hurt at times. But when he was out there, we won. But now you invested the draft capital in Trey. You see the potential there. He's made it the right stuff. He's what you want in that position to run the offense the way that you want to run it. And now he's the unquestioned leader of the team, and so you go forward with him. And now the team knows, okay, this is the guy which we already knew because he already had, did all of the stuff in the OTAs and mini camp. But now it's training camp. Now it's time to put the pads on Friday. It's time to get this thing rolling towards preseason and ultimately the regular season. And we know he needs every rep. He needs to be in command of everything. So, man, I'm happy. I'm just glad that Shanahan is comfortable enough in his own skin now as the coach of the team to be able to dictate, this is what's going on, this is how I feel, this is what I see that the team is going to do. So man, let's go forward with him and let's win and do what we need to do to get the Super Bowl. That's what the ultimate goal is. We want to win another championship, and we feel we could do it with him.
Uh, both of you guys mentioned Jimmy G, and hopefully we won't have to touch on him too much, seeing as though he's kind of old news. But he did pass the physical. I know he was out there today, I guess, going through his throwing rehab or whatnot, but didn't participate in any other practice drills or anything like that. Rob, what do you expect to happen going forward with Jimmy? Release him? Do you think, will he actually be traded, or what do you think?
Interestingly, I've been stubborn on this from the outset because I'm a logic guy, right? And the logic to me is fairly sound. Jimmy Garoppolo is a starting caliber quarterback within the NFL, in my humble belief. I put him somewhere in that like 15 to 20 range of quarterbacks within the league. And that's good enough to have value. And so if you've got a limited commodity where there's limited supply and there is demand, I anticipated Jimmy would get moved during that quarterback carousel. I did not anticipate that surgery, and I had to adjust and admit I was wrong because I didn't anticipate that surgery. And now we're looking at a situation where there's not very much demand anymore. When you look at the number of teams out there that would concretely want to go get a quarterback, let alone a quarterback that's going to cost them potentially $24 million for a single season, or someone they're going to have to renegotiate a contract. Like, it sort of weeds some of these remaining teams out. Cleveland has expressed that, hey, we're not in that sweepstakes. I don't know how much I believe them when they say that, but I do have to take into account to bring Jimmy in. They've got Deshaun Watson. I would think it's only going to be a 1-year suspension at a maximum. That's just, again, me guessing there. But so they're not going to want Jimmy G for 3 or 4 years. So you're not going to extend him. It truly would be a 1-year, $24 million rental. And that's a lot of money. The Browns are under pressure, so you never know what you're going to do. But I find it fascinating that some of the teams that are at the top of the list, in particular, the best betting odds right now are the New York Giants. And that one is a bit confusing to me. They have very little cap space available. Last I checked, I want to say it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million. I don't anticipate the 49ers eating a huge chunk of Jimmy G's salary because it's not guaranteed. If you can't find a good trade partner, you cut him, you save the entire $24.2 million that he would be due if you kept him. That feels like a better deal than taking back like a 4th or a 5th rounder and eating like $15 million worth of salary. I'm not on board with that, but I have to say, getting creative, maybe Tyrod Taylor coming back from the Giants in a trade, I could get on board with that.
Yeah, I like that too. What you say, bro?
I mean, the best case scenario would have been for him to have been traded before the draft or during the draft if he would have been healthy. Now, Rob, you were at that combine and you were hearing the buzz about potentially where he could have went, and that was prior to the surgery. You heard all of the different teams that the market was out there for because you had so many teams at that particular time that had that, that need. But then just before the draft, you announced you're getting surgery around the combine time. So that just threw everything in the ticket because, see, everybody is anticipated. It's a combine. It's before the draft. You're going to be traded. Now, most people were speculating if they could have got a second-round pick for him in exchange for what, they had to give New England to get him, or a 3rd or 4th or whatever it was, a conditional pick, the next year to go with a pick this year, whatever the case was, you assumed that he was going to be traded. But the surgery threw everything off. It caught the 49ers off guard. And then some people were speculating, did he do it on purpose to kind of, get them back for how they handled the whole situation and so on and so forth. And then that threw it into this whole frenzy. And, I just had to get off at that point. I just had to get off. I just had to get off. It just was too much. But at any rate, the best case scenario, he's traded before the draft. We never had to worry about this, but because he did a surgery, and on some level, okay, man, it's your livelihood. Your arm is what have made you the money, so you got to look out for your best. Well, the agent's going to look out for your best interest. So it's a catch-22. They were kind of damned if they did, damned if they didn't. Now, they made the declaration that trades are order. They told him you could actively seek a trade. Now, realistically, do they want compensation? They want some compensation. They don't want to just outright release him and not get anything. they don't want to eat the $24 million though. I think they would want to have that in their pocket to either roll it over to next year or do in-season trade or whatever the case may be, depending on how the season starts. So still a lot up in the air. I think the best case scenario, they do trade him. He goes somewhere where he could be the starter, maybe compete for the job, and they move on. He moves on, and we thank him for what he did.
Yeah, I see like the most likely outcome being that the 49ers are able to trade him. I don't think you get nearly as much as was initially put out there, but I wouldn't be shocked if it were somewhere in the neighborhood of a 4th round pick or a conditional 3rd. I wouldn't be shocked. That seems a little high given the lack of demand, but you did hear Kyle Shanahan specifically call out, we're not just looking to give away a quarterback like this. We're not just looking to make him available to everyone out there. So I think the interesting piece is if the 49ers are unable to find that trade partner and we get down to the wire and you're close to that August 29th or 30th, whenever it is that his salary becomes fully guaranteed by being on the roster on week 1, that's like the game of chicken that I will be watching real closely because I know that the egos in the front office and Kyle Shanahan, they don't want to let him go for nothing. And do you really want to pay $24 million, an additional $24 million for your backup quarterback? At some point, something's got to give there. I don't know which way it would break, but if it comes down to that scenario, I think we should all be on the edge of our seats.
Now, Rob, with that statement about Kyle not wanting to just make him available to anybody, how much do you really feel Seattle factors into that equation? Because, I mean, a lot of speculation about where it could go, but when I heard Seattle might be interested, and in my opinion, Pete Carroll always tries to steal our guys.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about that?
It's intriguing. I could see Seattle being very firm in the idea of, hey, we're just going to tank this 1 year because they didn't just trade away Russell Wilson. They traded away a slew of talent. And so bringing Jimmy Garoppolo in would make them competitive, but I don't know that it turns them into a playoff contender or anyone with serious aspirations. They do still have the draft capital where they could bring Jimmy aboard, have a middling season, end up with a middle-of-the-road draft pick because of that, and still have the draft ammo to move up in that draft and grab their next generational quarterback. But it becomes so much simpler. Pete Carroll has enough tenure to survive a 1-year downswing. Becomes very simple for them to just have a poor year, embrace that, get additional draft capital from having that bad season, and then reload and move forward. So I could see both scenarios. The only reason I'm not willing to write it off entirely is what you said. The Seahawks love to swoop up ex-Niners. It's just what they do.
It's frustrating too, bro.
Yes, it is.
All right, man, swinging back to Trey a little bit. A lot of, like you say, speculation and storylines. The one that got me, I think, the most, I guess, was kind of most recent with the arm fatigue. And I'm like, he's real young. It's got to be either not accurate or something a little bit more to the story. Nevertheless, I'm not worried either way. But his relationship with Brandon Ayuk, I see that as being a good thing, them hanging out, that much, I guess, in the off season and working together. What do y'all see that relationship going? And with the whole Debo situation still kind of lingering, the Brandon Ayuk, Trey Lance combination, I think it's probably right on time. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree on the Brandon Ayuk thing and working out together, Debo holding out, being in, working out in Florida, preferring that venue for where he spends his offseason. I get it, but I do think it adds an advantage for Brandon Ayuk. He looked good today. It was only one of his 4 completions was from Trey Lance. So we haven't seen it actually happen on the field, but I anticipate that it will. I've got a big prediction for Brandon Ayuk as the leading receiver in receiving yards. I think he may be outdone in touchdowns. Certainly you've got Jawan Jennings, the touchdown and first down machine that he is, and Debo's going to rack up the all-purpose yards, I would expect, although probably fewer carries this year after expressing that he doesn't want to be used primarily as a running back. The arm fatigue thing, it was great to hear Kyle Shanahan laugh that off a couple of times. He did it in the interview with Tim Kawakami. He did it the next day in the presser for all of us to see. And I thought that was the case. You're talking about, hey, a rookie coming in, they're throwing all the time. They're working on their throwing motion. If he exhibits any soreness, you're going to give him the day off because that's what you do. You protect your investment. And then that story leaks and becomes something bigger than it is. It was great to have Coach Shanahan come in and slough that off. It made me think of it as the non-story that I think that it is.
Props. P Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the year where Brandon takes the next step. Kyle kind of talked about it today. You know, about he came in COVID year, didn't really have a training camp, started, and then he was like, okay, I didn't arrive. Then he talked about last year's training camp was a little tough, and he realizes that I haven't arrived, and he kind of struggled. But he didn't choke, he didn't pout, he stepped up like a man, like he said, and he got better, and he realized I got to put this work in. And so the way that he started was, in the doghouse, and you had to hear all of that noise. But then he worked through it, and by the time they got to the end of the season playoffs, he was a factor out there. He was making the plays that was expected of him to be made. And so it carried over because now he realizes I got to put this work in. So it's to his advantage to get the timing down with Trey. And even with Debo, being away with the whole contract situation and that, I think Debo is going to get that down too once he signs the contract. But with Brandon taking the next step, then it just makes Debo even more of a weapon because realistically, based on the season that Debo had, we know they're going to roll coverage to him. Now you get Brandon one-on-one against the second best cornerback. He should be doing his thing. And like Rob said, you got Jauan Jennings, who have also taken a next step in his game. So now we see the receiver core that we kind of had questions about outside of Debo, because Brandon was struggling and, Jauan had been hurt and had to prove he could stay healthy. Well, now they've proven they can make plays to get it in the playoffs. So now all of this, and this is the beautiful thing, is carrying over through the all-season, OTAs, minicamp, and into training camp. So now, going into the regular season, there's no more questions about what they can do. Their weapons in addition to what Kittle's going to bring, in addition to what Debo's going to bring. So now, and I agree with Rob, I think he gets over 1,000 yards. He could get maybe 11, 1,200, even not the touchdowns. I think Jauan would get the most touchdowns just because of third downs and maybe red zone targets. And, you still got Kittle, and they could use, Kyle Juszczyk. And, man, we got weapons that finally are going to be able to show what they can do out there. So I think 1,200 yards will be the surface for what he could do if he really explores maybe 13, 14. Because Debo kind of did that too. We always thought he could get 1,000, maybe 1,100. Well, he way exceeded above those expectations. So sky's the limit for Brandon, and now he's ready to take the next step. So, like I said, man, let's go. He's gonna do his thing this year. He's gonna be fine.
Hey, bro, I was just talking to a couple of friends of mine before I came on here. They Saints fans, right? We played them again this year. So was talking about that, and I described Trey Lance, right? I said I feel he's a cross between Andrew Luck and Donovan McNabb, right? Because I feel he's smart as hell, right? Andrew Luck, big guy, kind of mobile too, and I feel McNabb, he had pretty good wheels on him, not a burner, but could kind of, definitely extend plays, so forth and so on. So keep that in mind, Andrew Luck, McNabb. But
I like that comparison.
Thank you, brother.
I never
11. I'm trying to tell y'all, bro. Like, I thought McNabb, like, initially, because of, I guess, the way he moved, but the smarts, Andrew Luck. 11 on 11 football. I hear Kyle Shanahan talk about that a lot. I think I pretty much understand it. You guys feel free to break it down for the listeners who may not understand it. But Trey Lance and his ability to allow us to play 11 on 11 football, the advantages I guess that'll have for us, and the ability for that to turn into play action, and what we never really got from Jimmy, in my opinion, chunk plays. Could we kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to underscore that 11 on 11, when you have a pocket quarterback, right, you don't have to account for what they might do with their wheels. You just have to cover everyone out there. So basically, you have 11 bodies covering 10 individuals, depending on how many you're rushing, how many are in coverage. But basically, 11 bodies to account for 10 other players on offense. When you have Trey Lance, who has those wheels, I agree with you. What I love so much about that comparison that you listed there is the fact that Donovan could move, was elusive, but didn't have burner speed. And that's what I saw from Trey Lance last year. And yet you can still be very effective with that because it is simply the threat of run. And that will show up. I can't imagine that not being something Kyle Shanahan takes advantage of. He likes to set up defenses. I mean, you heard today that one of the better plays that came out from Trey Lance was with his wheels. It was a play action. No, it was a zone read call, and Trey rolled out and got 15 plus yards, right? So that could be something that helps to further unlock this offense. And touching back on this receiving core and the skill set of Trey Lance, now you have Trey's ability to push the ball deep, Trey's ability to push it outside of the numbers, which to your point, Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't do consistently at a bare minimum. And now we've added a couple of pieces. Danny Gray, Ray McLeod, who I heard from a couple of people talking about Ray. That man looked fast out there today. So you could see a combination where now we are able to get more of those chunk plays. And what does that do? It opens up the stuff underneath even more so that Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings are catching those underneath passes and turning them into even more yards after the catch. It starts to all work together sort of seamlessly in that regard.
Yep.
Yeah.
P Warrior, what you got for me?
I mean, and Kyle talked about it in the presser. Being the ability for him to move with his legs, it just adds another dimension to the offense. But the defense has to honor all 11 guys out there. And you could even see it in some of the practice footage that they were showing today. Just the way when they were doing a boot, just the way he just seamlessly moved right or left. You could roll him either way and you could get yards off of it. And then you got to figure that there's going to be some plays that Kyle has specifically designed for specific situations, knowing that if I boot him a certain way, if I do the shotgun action like they do or the ghost motion that they do, he can get 15 plus yards in crucial situations. I think Kyle has probably has specific plays and specific times where he wants to call it, depending on the Florida game situation, so on and so forth. So just the added element of his legs, and this is the beautiful thing about him. He's not a Lamar Jackson. We know Lamar Jackson is just special as far as just running the football. He is a pocket quarterback that has the ability to move and run when he needs to run. And just the threat of that within Kyle's offense just allows our offense to go to another level, and it makes defense have to honor everything. And so, like I said, I think in the crucial situations, in the crucial moments when it's maybe a 3rd and 5, and Kyle says, okay, well, man, we might be able to go ahead and run this play, get the 5 yards, and maybe even get more just because of the threat of his legs. And then just in terms of him moving out of the pocket, if the play breaks down, he can throw on a run. And in some of the games you saw, he's not going to force the ball in there like Jimmy would. Well, we know Jimmy couldn't move outside of the pocket. We know that was a liability, but we know that at least Trey's going to do one or two things. He'll throw it away or he'll get what yards he can get and live to see another play. He won't put the ball in harm's way, so that's another element to his legs too. He's not going to force the ball in there like Jimmy would, even in the pocket. So the advantages of the 11 on 11 in his legs, I think, just takes the offense to another level, and it gives defenses nightmares because Kyle knows how to attack those defenses with that 11 on 11. So it's a benefit to us, I think.
All right. And in that 11 and 11 on 11, and I guess the whole running game in general, the running backs. I feel Jermichael Hasty is probably going to be the odd man out, though I guess out of the bunch, he brings kind of a different element compared to the other backs, but I still feel he'll probably be the odd man out. who I guess are you expecting to be the starter? And I guess it don't really matter because we kind of running back by committee. But what do you expect from the running back position? I can't think of the rookie name. TDP Price.
Yeah, Tyrion Davis Price,
Price, I
TDP.
think.
Thank you,
TDP
bro.
is such an easier one to go with. That's what I'm rolling with most of the time. I was a little surprised to see the breakdown of the order of snaps as they came out today, first string, second string, and so on and so forth, because it started out with Elijah Mitchell. That was not a surprise there. He clearly, if you were looking at last season, that was kind of the most skewed you saw Kyle Shanahan offense, where you basically had a bell cow situation where Elijah Mitchell got the lion's share of the reps. I see this as a much more dynamic situation this year, much more talented room. But again, I was surprised that it started with Elijah and then it was Jeff Wilson Jr. and Hasty. After that, Sermon and TDP. It just sort of reminds me that Kyle Shanahan and staff seem to really want rookies to earn those bumps up in where they start out on the depth chart. I expect to see Sermon and TDP climb that depth chart. Hearing good things about Trey Sermon, the way in which he came into camp in good shape, ripped, as many people are describing him, yoked at the moment, and TDP, a high draft pick spent on him. You would think he would get significant leeway to come in and grab that starting spot. I will say, Jack Hammer pointed out to me on a program we were doing recently that my guess is JaMychal Hasty is already the odd man out at this point, that it's a combination or a competition between Jeff Wilson Jr. and Jordan Mason, the undrafted free agent that will be in there as well for that fourth running back spot. But Jack did appropriately point out that of those three, Hasty is the different one, where his skill set is different. He's not a bigger body back. He's a smaller, shiftier guy. And so if you're looking to have, a certain Swiss Army knife in your tool chest or a different tool in your tool chest, you may say to yourself, well, we already have a big body back in TDP, technically another one in Debo. So maybe we don't need Jeff Wilson Jr. Maybe we don't need Jordan Mason. We need a smaller, shiftier guy. But I still have a hard time believing JaMychal Hasty makes this roster. The more exciting one to me would be Jordan Mason because it feels like a higher ceiling, whereas Jeff Wilson Jr. has that high floor. You know what to expect. He can contribute right away. But I just don't see a potential for a breakout season for Jeff Wilson Jr. at this point in his career.
Gotcha. What you say, bro?
I mean, I think it's good to have the running back that I think we do have. Elijah Mitchell obviously have earned the right to start just based on what he did last year, being a 7th-round pick, coming in. He was kind of hurt in the preseason, really didn't know about him, but heard good things about him. And then the first game against Detroit, he blows up and gets that first long touchdown. And you're like, okay, where did you come from? And it was like, okay, it was on that path. You know what I mean? And so he was a pleasant surprise. And so I think you have to start him. Now, the guy that I'm rooting for is Trey Sermon. I think Trey Sermon is ready. Last year, and I was trying to tell people, you got to realize that he played in two college systems, two totally different college systems. He played at Oklahoma, which is one system. Then he went to Ohio State, which is another system. Now you're asking him to come from two different college systems to run the outside zone, one cut as a running back. We know there were some plays that Elijah Mitchell missed holes, and he played in that type of offense at Louisiana Tech, I think. You're asking Trey Sermon to totally change all that he knew in college to come to the one cut system. Now, if you drafted him in the 3rd round, you obviously see potential. Bobby Turner was a running back coach, so you obviously see he's got talent. But it takes players longer. Now, from all the things that you saw in the all-season, OTAs, minicamp, he was in shape. He, I think, was practicing with Dalvin Cook. So his mind, mentally, he knew I had to set my game up. And obviously, when you draft a guy from LSU, TDP, in the 3rd round, just like they drafted you in the 3rd round, that's telling you if you're not on your game, then you're not going to get a player, you're going to get cut, whatever the case may be. So mentally, he should be ready, and physically, he's ready. So I think he could be the one that maybe not start, but could have an impact. And especially if they're going to go to more of a power scheme with Anthony Lynn being a running back coach there, I think he could break off. And then you still have TDP, who is a bigger, more physical guy. So to me, it's Elijah Mitchell, it's Trey Sermon, it's TDP, and I think they keep Jeff Wilson because while we don't think he's gonna explode, one thing we know about Jeff Wilson, he knows the offense. He runs hard. He can catch. He's a good blocker, and Shanahan trusts him
He's a
because he
Shanahan
produced.
guy.
Yeah, and we know you're not gonna be out on that field. He can't trust you, and if you can't block, that's the two things you got to be able to do with style. You got to be able to block, and he's got to have that trust. I like Hasty because he is a shifty guy. He can't catch the ball in the backfield. He has the quickness, but it's a numbers game. And so if they want to go with the consistent guy and the drafted guys who they're looking to ultimately be started down the line, then he's the odd man out. So I think it's Elijah Mitchell, it's TDP, it's Trey Sermon, it's Jeff Wilson, and it's Juszczyk, and maybe they stash the guy Mason on the practice squad, and if he produces and maybe they get injuries and he steps his game up, then he'll get one later down the line because that's what's been killing him the last couple of years is the injuries to the running back position. So maybe they can get him to the practice squad and he'll be a chess piece that Kyle could use later down the line. God forbid one of them get hurt.
I think you make a great point about why Jeff Wilson Jr. might be the one to sneak on the roster there. Those are two factors that you really want to consider. His ability to run block, pass block as well, right? Just ability to block in general, and his outlook. And I think that's part of what Kyle Shanahan loves about him. George Kittle's talked about how he goes to that dark place in games, right? He's a carefree, go-lucky kind of guy in practice when you're shooting the breeze with him. But in the game, he goes to that dark place, and you kind of want that tone setter on your offense. You got George Kittle, who likes to mow over blockers when he can, defenders when he can. So you have that kind of a mindset in the running back room that could help everybody.
Yeah, definitely a good locker room guy. And the key to it all, fellas, because we can't run the ball. Trey Lance cannot be successful if we do not have a fairly decent offensive line. And I'm being kind by saying fairly decent, but we know we need a damn good offensive line if we want to do what we want to do. I don't know who's starting. I know they had a lot of backups in today. What's your outlook on the offensive line, in particular, McGlinchey, but the offensive line overall? What can we expect? What do we need to pray for?
Well, I was definitely, Trent Williams was out today for a personal reason, but he's locking down that left tackle spot. So you just, kind of take that off your mind because it's something we don't have to worry about. It was great to see McGlinchey out there. It was reported that he looked a little skinnier, and that's something that's been an issue for him over his career. Last season, he came back 25, 30 pounds heavier. That was helping him anchor in the pass blocking game, and then he had the injury, and as he's recovering from that, must have lost some weight. I heard someone speculate that he was in between his playing weight for 2020 and then what he bulked up to for 2021, and he may continue to add bulk as we get towards the preseason and into the regular season. So I was just glad to have him out there, glad to see him out on the field. That was very exciting for me. And then it's interesting to see them shifting around who's going to be competing at the center spot and who's going to be competing at right guard. You saw Jalen Moore take some snaps there during OTAs and minicamp. And then it was Burford, the rookie, coming in, who one of our previous GMs, Scott McLuhan, had great things to say about him as seeing him more as a second round talent. We ended up taking him obviously in the fourth round. So we could have gotten good value there. You may see a young guy where the Niners decide, hey, we're having Jake Brendel and Daniel Brunskill compete for center. Between the two of those, we're going to get a quality starter at center. But let's go Burford as opposed to dragging Brunskill back and forth between center and right guard. If Burford can hold down right guard and Aaron Banks steps in at left guard, I will feel pretty good about this offensive line. But it's one thing I will continue to have my eye on because it is so important to Trey Lance's success, to the run game success. And it seems highly uncertain at this point.
All right. Brother?
Well, I think, this would be the one area where everybody doesn't want to be in panic mode, but is kind of in panic mode because you got to have a line of block for him to protect him and to do what we do best, which is run the ball. Now, you saw the different combinations. Yeah, Trent Williams was out, so they had McKivitz at left tackle, they had Banks at left guard, they had the combination of Brindle and Brunskill at the center, they had Buford at the right guard, and then they had, I think, McGlinchey. Now, if Buford looks as good as what I was watching before we came on, from what Grant was saying, I was watching Grant, and he was giving him props. I think all of the offensive linemen that they drafted, Zakel, Buford, even Jalen Moore and Banks. The last year they drafted these guys with the feeling that they're gonna be interchangeable pieces playing multiple positions and becoming starters at some point. Now the question is, who's gonna step up and really show that I'm deserving of being the starter? Because I think Kyle wants to play the best guy, and if he's a rookie, then you play the best guy. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. But it's about the reps now. Now, I think Banks is going to be left guard regardless of anybody else. I think you traded up, however many spots you traded up in the second round to do that. So they knew they weren't going to realistically take Tomlinson. So he's the guy there. Now, from all that you heard, he lost the weight, he's got the strength still, and he's more able to move within what they want to do in the scheme. So you put him there and you give him every rep that's possible. He's got to get reps if he's going to be the guy. On the other side, like I said, that's going to be a competition. I like Jalen Moore. Whether he plays guard, I think he played swing tackle a little bit last year, so he's flexible. He could play that. You got Zakel, who played tackle in college, but they think is a guard, but could probably still play tackle. So I think they're looking for versatility. And if you're drafting these guys to play interchangeable positions, then you throw them in there, see what they can do. But you know that, okay, if we want to play them at guard, but they can play tackle, hopefully nobody gets hurt and they're able to just grow in the position. I think McGlinchey needs to be at least maybe 310, 315. I think that would be the best weight for him. I think if he's 300 and less, he's going to get pushed over. We saw it when he was too light. Yeah. He was getting manhandled by cornerbacks out there. Yeah, that's just not acceptable for an offensive tackle. So whatever your ideal playing weight is, whether it's between 310 and 320, then that's where you need to be. And hopefully he'll ramp himself up with the weight through the training camp to get back to that ideal playing size. So they need him. He's the best right tackle that they have. So we need you healthy, and we need you with the weight to be able to run block, but still have enough of your feet to pass block. We need him out there. So we need to hope that he's going to come back and be what he was when he was really playing well for him. So to me, I just look at it as, I'm going to just look at it as positive, even though on some level I'm kind of scared a little bit, but I'm going to just look at it as positive because it's like, okay, y'all drafting these guys, throw them in the fire and see what you got. That's the best case scenario. You got to see what you have. And the only way you can do that is when a pass come on and the preseason game starts. And so I'm going to look at it positive too, and I'm going to say, God forbid it doesn't become positive.
All right, fellas. Well, we're a little bit more than halfway through, but we're doing good, and we're moving to the other side of the ball. Let's talk defense, which we can. I think we would kind of agree is the strength of the team. Let's start on the back end, though. We know what Jimmy Ward is, one of the best safeties out there. Third down, I'm going to call specialist. Strong safety, I'm not really sure what's going on there. I know Huff, everybody, kind of big on Huff. And the nickel corner, Daquez Denard, is that who's been getting... I'm not really high on him personally. You guys can tell me how y'all feel, but the back end of the defense, let's start there. Obviously, Travarius Ward upgrade. I think at the cornerback position, we fairly good, but safety, nickel corner, secondary. What y'all thinking?
My hope would be that we've stepped up our pass rush again and that it's even more ferocious so that the cornerbacks don't have to cover for quite as long. But we've also stepped up our cornerbacks such that they can cover for that extra half a second that should allow for that ferocious defensive line to get to the quarterback. So I see a symbiotic relationship existing there. Bringing in Charvarius Ward certainly would seem to give us more ability to play man on the one side and free up some more creative defensive schemes because of that fact that you have the one lockdown corner who is very capable of manning up against whomever you want to put him up against on the opposing offense. I'm not as worried about Talanoa Hufanga as I know some are in claiming that strong safety spot because of the strength of the rest of the unit. When you've got Charvarius Ward on one side, you've got Emmanuel Mosley appearing to come out looking sharp today, probably going to lock down that other side. You got Jason Verrett, hasn't even been cleared to play yet, but could be available to start on one of the injury lists. I'm starting to wonder if maybe the Niners do tuck him away as a reserve, as they have done in years past. I would expect them to do that with Kalia Davis as well. But, tuck a couple of guys that they can bring back mid-season when they've fully healed, give them a little extra time to continue to rehab. So that's a phenomenal group. The one that I'm unsure about, because I do think Huff is going to get the vast majority of the first team reps. It's going to be his job to lose. I do think that nickel cornerback position is one where I'm less certain. You talked about Darqueze Dennard. I'm hopeful there. I hope that Darqueze Dennard can realize some of that first round potential that he hasn't flashed as of yet. The talent was there. There's a reason he was drafted above Jason Verrett and Jimmy Ward in the same draft where they came out. So I'm hopeful that maybe we recover some of that. I hearken back to my memories of Carlos Rogers coming over, the ex-first round talent, and reclaiming his career in his first season with the 49ers back in 2011. But I admit that that's me being hopeful and really putting out a prayer that maybe it'll be answered. Sam Womack seems to be the next guy in line. I don't have much of an opinion there yet. This one feels like a more true competition where either one could walk away with that, or we could see a dark horse candidate coming in and grabbing that spot. I heard that Diamador Lenore was not playing out of the slot primarily in his reps today, so I don't know who that would be, but the 49ers have some depth there. They just don't have a clear-cut starter.
Gotcha. Pete Warrior.
Well, I had threw that question in your mailbag last night about Hufanga. I mean, by the end of the year, he definitely had turned the corner. You saw it in the Green Bay game, on the one pass where he was trying to get Rodgers trying to get the ball to Devontae Adams, and he was right there in center field and made the play. And, he's been under the tutelage of Troy Polamalu. So if he could be a poor man's Polamalu, I'm definitely all in on that. And you could see, one thing we know about him, he's a short tackler, great on special teams. But what we want to see is, can you cover that deep middle if we bring Jimmy down in the slot? Because we could see Jimmy playing some slot too against certain, receivers or tight ends. Can you cover the deep third? Now, we also got to factor in Tarvarius more into that. He was hurt, but when he was healthy, the Super Bowl year, he was making plays. The only issue that we had as fans was he took bad angles. But as far as tackling and covering, you were good. Now, let's see if you recover from the Achilles and you haven't lost your quickness, but you will take the right angles and still be the short tackler and ball hawk that you will become. So they have a flexibility there. I think Hufanga starts, and if he continues to ascend and just build off of what he was to end the season in the playoffs and going into the all season, then, like I said, to me, you are like maybe a poor man's Troy Polamalu, and I'm not mad at that.
No, sir.
Great. Yeah, I'm great with that. So, and we have definitely improved the cornerback position with Ward and with Mosley, and even though Lenore started and kind of fell off, he still got potential. We know what Amber Thomas became. I even think they could maybe even put Amber Thomas in the slot. That's just a thought. Give him a shot, because I don't think he is going to be a starter, but he proved that he can make plays. So maybe give him a shot. Dark Reznor, yeah, you've been kind of back and forth with teams, and you kind of did play well for us. And then you have Womack. So one thing about K'Wan Williams, he was hurt at times, but when he was healthy, he was consistent and he made plays. So that's going to be a tough act to follow, but they're capable if they get the right guy. I don't know if they go outside of what they have to bring somebody in. I think they do it in-house. Somebody just got to step up and make plays. But overall, this is the best secondary they had, even in the Super Bowl year, to me. And if you, I know we're going to get into the whole pass rush, if you look at what the pass rush is presently constructed, I don't think they're going to have a lot of time to cover because I think quarterback's going to be on the ground more, more than a lot. My opinion. But overall, this is the best secondary that they've had, and I think we get more interceptions and more turnovers because of the pass rush and because they can be more aggressive. And I think Ward becomes a Pro Bowl cornerback because he's going to have a lot of opportunities to jump balls because of the pass rush. That's just my opinion.
Okay, well, D-line, since we, everybody is enthusiastic about it, let's go there. Kinlaw, if he can never get right, we figure he'll be a dominant force on the line. We know what Armstead can do. I'm interested in the guy. I don't know his name. I know, Rob, you're going to be able to help me, who they just picked up from Seattle.
Robert Kimdichie.
It's supposed to be real talented. Would definitely add to the depth we already have. Nick Bosa, everybody knows about Nick. And I'm really interested to see what the rookie's going to do. Dre Jackson, is that it? Drake Jackson?
Yeah, Drake. Yep.
I'm interested to see what he's going to do. So let's talk the D-line. I think they could be one of the best in the league. And Nick Bosa as far as his contract.
Yeah, I've made that bold prediction myself. I do think they're going to be one of the best in the league. Tough to say that they'll maintain their status as the elite run-stopping unit. DJ Jones' departure, that was a big loss. Hassan Whiteside, no, not Hassan Whiteside. I'm thinking Blazers basketball at this point. Hassan Ridgeway, bringing him in as another 300-pounder as that backup to Javon Kinlaw should help because I can't expect, I'm hoping for a good season from Javon Kinlaw. I can't expect him to be as great against the run as DJ Jones was. DJ Jones had that perfect mixture of he was a little bit short, he was stocky, he was quick with his feet, he was perfect against the run, right? He had leverage against all the offensive linemen, the ability to stand in against the double team and quick enough to jump into one of the lanes and grab one of those. That in combination with the length of Eric Armstead was just a dynamic duo. I have a hard time imagining they'll be able to continue that dominance, but this pass rush has the potential, and this is my big, bold prediction, to lead the league in sacks. I believe that's what they do. They offset the Steelers, who have held that title by themselves for 3 years, and they tied 4 years ago to have that sack leader. And maybe it's because Nick Bosa outdoes TJ Watt this year. He's certainly capable of it, but it's the depth that continues to wow me. When I look at Charles Omenihu coming back as one of like the maybe fourth or fifth best pass rushers, but he's so determined to have a phenomenal season. The return of a guy like Kerry Hyder, who last time he was with us and the time before that when he was with Chris Kocurek in Detroit, had great seasons both of those years. I would expect him to have a little bit of a resurgence if he does stick around. This may be the toughest cuts on the team, cutting down the defensive line, and I would think almost assuredly that anyone cut by the 49ers is going to be grabbed off of waivers by some defensive line needy team out there because this is potentially the most talented defensive line room in the league. It'll be fascinating to watch Drake Jackson from the standpoint of can he pick up the playbook fast enough to get a role right out of the gate? Or is he relegated to a second string, conditional pass rusher where he's just coming in on specific pass rushing downs and not even on the premier pass rushing downs? That'll be a fascinating one to watch for me. And obviously Javon Kinlaw, he looked, people were talking about him looking spry today, looking like he was recovered from the knee injury, but making sure he stacks those days and doesn't have one of those dreaded setbacks that can happen for the guys that are rehabbing.
Gotcha. P Warrior.
Yeah, well, Kyle and John have made the defensive line the core of the team since they came to the 49ers. And this is the deepest defensive line we've had, the most talented defensive line we've had. And like Rob said, whoever gets cut and doesn't make this defensive line is going to get snapped up before the waiver is over.
Seattle.
Right.
Yeah, or Seattle or anybody else, really. Because I think what they discovered, let's just compare 2019 to last year. 2019, they didn't have depth, they had stars. And it carried them to the Super Bowl, but they needed the depth to get them over the hump. If we'd have had a few more fresh bodies, we probably win because we could have kept coming at them home.
Amen.
Last year, we didn't have stars, but we had depth, and it was a combination of, well, we had Nick Bosa as a star, obviously. So we did have one star, but we had so much depth that it carried us in addition to what he brought to the table. So now we have him, and we have this crazy depth. And the beautiful thing about the defensive line, we got players like Aminu and the Torres of the world and Drake Jackson. They are hungry to prove themselves. Even, your boy coming back, Hyatt coming back. He's hungry to prove that, okay, I got the big money, but I was in the wrong place. I probably should have stayed, but I couldn't get the money because of the whole, financial situation. So they're hungry. And we got Nick, who we know he's going to get the $100+ million contract. That's next after Debo. So that's just a given. So, and we still got every kind. It's just, man, they got guys everywhere that are hungry to produce. And so I agree with Rob. I think they lead the league in sacks, which is going to cause more turnovers, which allows the secondary to get more turnovers. We haven't even gotten to the linebackers yet. So the front seven of this defense, man, not to me, I think number one overall in the league in a lot of categories. And I think for Kinlaw, and I'm rooting for Kinlaw because he's been hurt. No, DJ Jones is special. And man, I wish they could have kept him. And this is where Jimmy, if he don't get the surgery, they trade him. They have the money to keep DJ. They would have had the money to keep him. They would have had the money. But he was special because, like Rob said, man, he had the feet and the size. He could hold a block. He could get off blocks. He could run sideline to sideline. Kinlaw's not that guy. Kinlaw, his strength is he's going to tie up two blockers to free everybody else up. He's a two-down player, but that's fine. We don't need you but for 2 downs, really. And if you can give us 2 downs and we stout against the run, even if it's just tying up 2 guys to let Fred and the linebackers and the other defensive linemen flow, you're doing your job. And if you get an occasional sack, too, if we can get him to play a full season and get 50 tackles and maybe 3 or 4 sacks out of Kinlaw, man, that's gold for us. That would be the greatest expectation that we could get from him. And if we get that from him, then that means our defense is number one overall. So I'm rooting for the guy because I think if he's healthy, he's going to tie up 2 blockers. He's going to allow everybody to run to the ball. And occasionally, if he gets his confidence, he might have enough of a pass rush ability to get a couple sacks. And that's all we can ask of him. Tie up 2 blockers, get a couple sacks, get maybe 50 tackles, and reach and play 2 downs. And then when they go to the NASCAR package or whatever they're going to do and take him out, then we just come with pass rushers because they got plenty of those. So it's the best of both worlds. I'm rooting for Kinlaw. I really want him to succeed because if he succeeds, then the defense goes to another level and we become that top 3 maybe overall defense in the NFL.
Hey, bro, don't forget about batted balls. You know what I'm saying? For Kinlaw. A lot of batted balls on them quick throws. Linebackers real quick, bro. We talking turnovers. Fred Warner, in my opinion, probably the best cover linebacker. You got Greenlaw coming back, and you got Aziz, who I'm real high on. So linebackers, fellas.
I mean, you're talking about maybe the best linebacker room in the NFL. We just got done heaping the praise on the defensive line room, which is incredibly deep. But if we're talking top to bottom best players, you might have to give the edge to the linebacker room, and that's nuts. You have 3 starting caliber linebackers so long as Aziz continues to come back from injury. There was a little bit of a scare today that turned out to just be him getting the wind knocked out of him in a collision. But he is healing from 2 offseason surgeries. So something to keep an eye on there. But between he, Fred, and Dre, I mean, phenomenal. You get your pick of the starting 2. And when you're in a third linebacker situation, you have a stud coming in then as well. And Oren Burks is a top quality tackler that's going to contribute on special teams. And Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles was already someone that was contributing on special teams for the 49ers. So 2 very capable backups that are studs on special teams. You can't ask for much more there. I think the hope for Fred Warner is he plays this entire season more like he played the second half of last season. It felt like a slow start for Fred. Didn't have the splash plays that we're used to seeing him make. He had a solid start to the season, but after getting the big bag that he did, you expect him to continue as all-pro Fred. And all-pro Fred needs to get those sacks or those turnovers, needs the big splashier plays that get you that national recognition. I hope he bounces back to that. He's now absorbed D'Amico's defensive scheme wholeheartedly. Maybe he can play just a little bit faster, play with his hair on fire again, because when he's out there sideline to sideline, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yep. All right, P. Warrior, give me your final thoughts on that one, bro. We're going to get out of here in a sec.
Well, I mean, I'm excited. I think you think about sideline to sideline, where are you going to run?
Right.
That 3, where are you going to run? Even if you try to throw it to a running back out of the backfield, he can run you down, and he bring the physicality. You got Gray, who is physical, but is maybe the better cover up guy of those 2, and then all-pro Fred, who I agree with Rob. I think you're going to see him from jump be all in. He knows the team. And then I'm interested to see how D'Amico uses them as far as blitz packages. Because now if we're looking at the secondary with Charvarius and E-Man being able to cover, and you got the pass rush, does he sprinkle in more blitzes with them at the linebacker position just to kind of throw a curveball? Because we know we're going to win with a 4-man rush in most cases just because of the talent up front. But does he incorporate them more in blitz packages? Does he do more zone blitzes, bringing them and maybe dropping defensive linemen out? I mean, I don't know how he's going to tweak the scheme, but we in some cases they were kind of vanilla at times because you didn't have the cornerbacks who could cover. But now, all things being even, with Ward and E-Man healthy and being able to cover, does he become even more aggressive defensively with bringing the Greenlaws, bringing Aziz, even bringing Fred at times in blitz packages and, like I said, dropping the defensive lineman out? So it's going to be fascinating to see, once the regular season starts, because we're not going to see that in the preseason. It's going to be vanilla. We know that. But when the regular season comes, do he throw different wrinkles in there? Because I think they want to play the press man-to-man where they didn't have the corner to do it. Now you do. So now you can be a little bit more aggressive than you were. And like I said, really he's got the best of both worlds because he knows he can generate a pass rush with a 4-man line. But if he wants to bring a 5-man pressure, or maybe even a 6-man pressure, really get creative, he could do it because now he's got the corners to cover. So as far as the linebackers, man, I think they chase everything down sideline to sideline. It's going to be hard for them to run. And that's why I say Kinlaw, if he can tie up 2 blockers, Fred Warner's getting in there. Aziz is getting in there. Dre Greenlaw is getting in there. It's going to be hard for you to run because they're going to be able to run sideline to sideline. And then they can cover all tight ends. They can cover fullbacks. They can cover running backs. So, man, in our front 7, where are you going to be able to move the ball realistically? That's why I say I think top 3, maybe number 1 overall defense in a lot of categories just because of the talent. So, man, I'm excited. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say right now, Justin Fields, it's going to be a long day for you, bro, come September, whatever day that is. It's going to be a long day for you, bro. They coming, and they going and I think they're going to come sending a statement that, you know what, we built off of what we did in the playoffs. We wasn't even at full strength, but they're going to send a statement to him and the league. We here. This the best defense in football. And as a fan, man, that's what we want to see them smash people out there. Justin Fields, I'm just telling you, Justin Fields, get ready. It's going to be a long day for you, bro. It's gonna be a long day for you.
Rob, I got two quick ones for you, bro, and we're gonna let you get out of here. One, Debo, do you think a deal ultimately gets done and he's a 49er for, I guess, a long period of time?
I do. I think it absolutely gets done. I believe the 49ers painted themselves into a corner as soon as they did not trade him during the draft. That must have signaled to Debo's camp, hey, we're going to get a deal done. And I think that gave some additional leverage to Debo's team. I have anticipated Debo will be focused on guaranteed money. And there was a report that came out today. I don't know what to make of it. It comes from a Carolina beat reporter, but you never know what kind of connections they may have within the NFL. She does have an NFL shield on her Twitter account, so she is connected to the NFL and has predicted that Debo may get a contract in the neighborhood of $70 million guaranteed. So that was my prediction, that his team would focus on maximizing the guaranteed money for a guy that has dealt with a few injuries in his career. Guaranteed money seems like the smart bet for a guy who's going to be used as a wide back. Guaranteed money feels like a smart bet. I think it gets done in the next week. It could even be in the next couple of days.
Okay. All right, bro. Last one. You don't have to give me exact amount of wins, but better than 10 wins this year?
Yes, sir. I went through and did a game by game. I thought I was being conservative. Now, I've gone back through and moved around some of those wins and losses, and I do think it could work out where the 49ers look like it's going to be a rough season. We may be sitting at a 5-3, maybe even 4-4 when we get to the bye. But I do believe that the lack of travel over the second half of the schedule and some of the easier games towards the very end of it, in particular, if that New Year's Day game is against a Raiders team that is already out of the playoffs at that point, I could see us stacking wins at the end of the season. And I've predicted it at 11 wins, 11-6. And again, I thought I was being fairly conservative in going through to map that out.
Sound like a winner to me, brother. That sound like playoffs, you know?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
All right, man. As always, bro, appreciate you, your time, your expertise, and that voice, man. I'm telling you. P Warrior, you got anything before we let Rob go?
Man, as always, thank you, man, for coming in, and blessing the show. Hopefully we'll be able to get on with you, for a show. And I agree with you. I think 11-6, maybe 12-5. The first half of the season, a lot of road games, and the tougher part of the schedule. If they can get to the bye week relatively healthy and either 4-4 and 5-3, I think in the second half they stack those wins, and that's what I'm looking for. I want them to be peaking at the end of the regular season, going into the playoffs with Trey confidently and being in total command of the offense and as healthy as they can be, just because it's 17 games. Like I said, it's not a sprint. This is going to be a marathon. So we just got to just endure all of what the whole season is going to be. But if the expectation is that we get into the playoffs and he's at his peak and the team is at their peak, we can get to the Super Bowl and win it with him this year because of the conference that we're in and because the AFC is going to beat each other up on the other side. And so I think we got a really good chance to get all the way. He's the key, of course. We just got to survive injuries, and I think they have enough depth overall within the team to be able to do that. So, like I said, 11 wins, 12 wins, they get in the playoffs, and we finish the deal this time, getting to the Super Bowl with him, and whoever comes out on the other side, I think this is the year we finally get over the hump. Kyle finally gets his ring, because I think he's comfortable in his skin, and he knows the team he had. They know they got a Super Bowl team, and now they got the quarterback that can get them there. And so I think we hoist this trophy. I'm just going to go out. I really got nothing to lose. We got everything to gain. So I'm just saying they going to hoist this trophy. We going to be celebrating in February, whatever that date would be in February of next year.
Man, I love that prediction. And I just got to say, I'm fired up by that. And I want to say thank you for you gentlemen having me on. I would love to have you guys on the program, whether it's later in training camp or as we get into the regular season. I think that would be phenomenal. But I always enjoy having the dialogue and just wanted to say cheers to both of you before we ended the segment.
I know that's right, brother. Right back at you. And Definitely appreciate you, man. For P Warrior _9 of myself, Benjamin That's Good, our special guest Rob Schuh, Faithful Boys Podcast, and we are out of the door.